Welcome to this lecture on containerization with Docker. So, in this session, we'll learn how to containerize the To-Do API application using Docker. And by the end of this lecture, you'll understand the benefits of containerization and be able to create a Docker image and container for your application. So, what is Docker? Docker is a platform for developing, shipping and running applications in containers. Containers are lightweight, isolated environments that package applications and their dependencies together. And what are the benefits of containerization? So why use Docker for your applications? First point in favor of containerization is portability, and the containers run consistently across different environments. And isolation is another property that is one of the benefits, and which the applications and dependencies are isolated, reducing conflicts. And it's got an easy scaling up and down as needed. And the application as well as dependencies are containerized basically, and you don't need to create all the dependencies, restore all the dependencies at another person's computer or in the production environment. So, and for version control, these images can be versioned and tracked as well. Now let's see about the Docker architecture. So Docker consists of the Docker engine, which includes the Docker daemon and Docker client. And images are used to create containers. So you can understand, you can just imagine images are just like classes in C#, and types and objects made out of the classes are containers. So images just can be synonymized with types or classes, whereas containers with the objects created out of those types or classes. And Docker Hub is a registry for storing and sharing container images, just as GitHub is for code repositories. Now, adding Docker support with Visual Studio. So we shall leverage the power of Visual Studio to simplify the process of containerizing our application. And Visual Studio makes it incredibly easy to add Docker support to our project. We'll see soon in this lecture. So it automates the process by generating a Docker file suited to our application's needs. Now let's go for adding a Docker support with Visual Studio. So what we are waiting for? Let's go deep into the adding the Docker support with Visual Studio. So let's open our project in Visual Studio. So I've got my To-Do API solution, which is ready for getting the Docker support. What I will do is I will add to this project, our main project, To-Do API, add Docker support. And target OS is Windows. So I'm working on Windows operating system. So click on OK. Now it has given me a Docker file straight out of the box within the blink of an eye. So that's great with the Visual Studio, right? So that's what is being told in this slide. So right click on the project in the Solution Explorer and select Add Docker Support. Visual Studio will prompt you to select the target operating system and framework, which we have already seen. And we have chosen the option that best match our project's requirements. Now, this Docker file, this is the automation for building a Docker image and then running the Docker image to create a Docker container. Now, this Docker file, we'll soon see, it contains instructions on how to build a Docker image for our application. Now, this Docker file is at the root of our project directory. As we can see over here, this Docker file is created. So this is the Docker file for this project. It's on the root directory of this main To-Do solution. Now it has got depending upon the operating system of the host machine, that will build or run the containers and the image specified in the from statement. Okay, so from this URL or URI, mcr.microsoft.com/.net ASP.NET 7.0 as base. So work directory is app /app expose 80 expose 443. These are the ports to be exposed. And again, these are some of the commands on the Docker file. So we won't go deep into these commands as yet, and see basically what these commands are doing as a review. So let's take a look. So open the Docker file on your project directory, which I had opened earlier, and you will notice that it includes the instructions for the base image, which I have already shown, and environment setup and copying your application files to the image. So again, back and forth, go back to this Docker file. So this is copying the todoapi.cs project. Okay, and it is running, it is getting all the scripts, it is containing all the instructions for Docker to follow. And one more thing is that Docker desktop for Windows should be running in the background, which I have already started. Okay, so run .NET restore for this project todoapi and copy everything, and work directory is a source directory, and then it is giving a command for .NET build, and from build as publish. So for publishing the project, run .NET publish with these flags. Okay, right. So that's in a nutshell everything. And what are the Docker commands? Now we'll be building a Docker image. Okay, so this is the command docker build. So this is the tag name flag, my to do API, the latest is the tag. This is sort of version. Okay, so we'll see that in a second. So docker build builds an image, and t flag specifies the image tag, which is like a version. Okay, and my to do API latest is the image name with the tag, and this dot at the end of this tag indicates the current directory where the Docker file is located. So let's flip over to Visual Studio and run this command. So what I will need to do is tools and command line. Either you could open the developer command prompt or developer PowerShell. Either of the two are powerful command prompts actually. So let me open developer PowerShell. Okay, so it is residing on my to do API completed directory. Is automatically it has selected this path, and our Docker file is also sitting on this directory. Okay, so let's give this the command. So I have opened them side by side just to see our commands and to issue the commands. Okay, so let's give it docker build and then this dot. Okay, I hope you are able to see it. Let me try to enlarge this screen, zoom it up a little bit, if it can be zoomed. It's too much zoomed. So let's get it back. Okay, I think it should be all right. Okay, let's run this command and see what happens. So you can see immediately these steps are following the instructions of the Docker file. It is following the Docker file instructions and creating an image. So if everything is fine, it should be able to run all the steps, all the 17 steps successfully. Is step 11 out of 17. First time it takes a little bit of time. So there are 2 warnings but no errors. So we are lucky. So everything is done. What next? All right. So it has successfully been able to create or build the Docker image. So you can see, just quick check over this. You can see all these steps. Step 1 out of 17 from this as base. It is work directory, app, using cache, using this num id, exposing 80, using cache. All of these commands are actually embedded in the Docker file, and it is running those steps one by one. All right, so let's move over to the next part of the slide. So next is running a Docker container. So what is the command? Docker run D, that is in detached mode. It is running in the background. And port -P is this flag P is port 5017. This is the on the host computer, on my computer here, and this is the port on the container. This is the port on the container, this is the on the host machine, and this should be the name of the container, which is my to-do API container, and this is the image to be used, that is my to-do API latest. So let us quickly review. Docker run starts the container, D runs the container in the background, and this maps port 5017 on your host to port 80 in the container. And this name, this dash name, my to do API container, gives the container a name, and my to do API :latest is the image to use. So what we are waiting for, let's run these commands like we did to build the image. All right, so you can see, I'll again condense it so that we can just copy what we have written over here, so that you can see that I'm copying exactly as I have written on this slideshow. So Docker run now this port 5017 will most certainly differ on your machine. Okay, so I will tell you from where you can find it if you are unsure of it in a moment. This is dash name. So my to do API. You can give it any name. Okay, to do API dash container or hyphen container, and I will use this image that I have created, my to do. If I am writing the correct name of my image, it will run, otherwise it will give me some error. So you can also verify the image that you have created, latest. Okay, so that is the Docker run command. So just a quick check, Docker run -d -p 5017 is mapped to 80, name my to do API container, my to do API latest. This is the most important, the image name, or you can even use the image tag, which I will show you again. So let's enter it. So this is all done. This container is already created. Okay, so what you can do, you can just run a command like this, which is not here in this slideshow, but Docker Docker ps process status. So you can see this is the image So this is a container ID, which is 264.264.E5, the same container ID that has been created, and we have used the image my-to-do API latest. Okay, and this is the command, and created 28 seconds ago, just a little bit ago. So you are able to now build an image and run a container. So in the next lecture, we will be pushing the container to the Docker Hub registry.